There they are, a group of loggers, dwarfed by a truly enormous redwood. It's hard to believe the size of these things. They're standing beside it, probably marveling at the tree they've brought down. This all happened way back in California, in the year 1892. Back in the 1960s, a new acceptance began to emerge for maternity and mastectomy bras. Feminism and the idea of bra burning also became intertwined in the popular imagination. It looks like a children's sidecar race in Berlin back in 1931. These young riders are taking a break, refueling. It's all happening in the Lustgarten, which is a lovely spot for such a fun event. It's 1972, and you can see a quiet kind of competition happening. From their individual cells, prisoners are engrossed in games of chess. The silence must be broken only by the clicking of the pieces and the occasional thoughtful sigh. The year was 1965. A soldier, his face etched with the marks of an unknown struggle, stood somewhere in Vietnam. It's a heartbreaking scene. People are crowded together, receiving care. The air must have been thick with worry and sickness. You can almost feel the exhaustion on their faces. This would have been during the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, a truly devastating time. Doctors and nurses are working tirelessly, trying to help as many people as possible. It's a stark reminder of the challenges faced by our ancestors during a time of crisis. It's 1966, and we're getting a glimpse of a real beauty treatment. It involves an icebox, which I'm guessing is pretty chilly. Looks like someone's getting the full experience. It's a scene from a long, long time ago. A young boy has an owl perched right on his arm. The year was 1933. The scene is a gymnastics display. This is happening at the Boys' Home Industrial School, located on Regent's Park Road in London, and the year is 1900. Jenny McGregor was arrested by the Minneapolis police. This happened on April 10, 1924. Apparently, the charges were for dispensing alcoholic beverages. And, get this, she was doing it from life preserver flasks. In 1910, there was a warning issued to Manchu ladies of the palace. They were told to stop smoking. Back in the 1800s, people often referred to pit bulls as nanny dogs. Apparently, they were known for being incredibly protective of children. It's a truly unusual sight. Imagine a waiter gliding across the ice on skates. This was back in St. Moritz, way back in 1932, specifically in Los Angeles. I bet that was a sight to see. A portrait of a child, maybe around the 1890s. It features a young one, and they're sitting with a cat. That's the whole scene. In New York City, back in 1972, there was this time at Butterfly Studios. Seems Yoko Ono and John Lennon were there. Here's how it goes. There's a man named Conrad Veidt. He's the actor whose work in the 1928 film The Man Who Laughs really made an impact. His portrayal, it's said, was the inspiration for the look of one of the most famous villains of all time, the Joker. It's 1950 and this guy's really excited to show off his brand new dashboard coffee maker. He's got it all set up right there in his car, ready for a fresh cup of Joe on the go. This is a butter protector from the 1950s. There's a young boy just sitting there on a sea mine enjoying an ice cream. This was back in Kent, in the United Kingdom, in 1945. It looks like a blast. A dance party right there on the beach. It must have been sometime in the 1960s, judging by the vibe. I bet the music was great, everyone just letting loose and having a fantastic time. Out in the South China Sea, back in 1979, aboard a World Vision ship called Operation Sea Sweep, a crew member has a truly remarkable moment. He spots someone who's just been rescued and realizes it's his own cousin. This little one, a young infant, is in a tiny iron lung. You can just see their head. It must have been the 1940s. They had polio back then, and this machine was all they had. It appears these villagers in Damyang, South Jeolla Province, South Korea, were arrested back in December of 1951. They were being accused of working with the communist invaders. It's 1936, and someone's got a Pontiac sedan. Now get this, the interior was designed to be completely transformed. You could actually convert it into a bed. These were known as business coupes. Apparently, traveling salesmen used them, and those fold-down seats were perfect for a quick nap on the road. In the 1890s, there was a Tibetan woman named Lady Annie Chokyi. Soldiers from the 89th Infantry Division of the 3rd United States Army are making their way across the Rhine River. They're using an amphibious DUKW, a 353, to get across. This is happening in the Oberwesel area. The year was 1944. Nicknamed the Mole by Winston Churchill, this is the Cultivator No. 6. It's a really interesting piece of military hardware, developed by the Royal Navy back in the day. But what's even more surprising is that it wasn't for naval operations. Nope, they built it for digging trenches on land. It's a pretty striking portrait. There's a man, and he's got a really intense gaze. He's wearing sunglasses, and you can just barely make out the reflection of something behind the camera. His hair, it's wild and bushy. He's got a strong jawline and a serious expression. It's a picture that definitely makes you think. It looks like we're in a rehearsal room, probably back in 1936. There are ballerinas here, getting ready to practice. They must be at George Balanchine's School of American Ballet. A young Brazilian girl stands her ground. She's clearly refusing to shake hands with a man. It must have been a tense moment. This happened back in 1979, a time when there was a lot of political unrest. The air gunner, he's standing there in front of his B-24 bomber. He's got all the gear on, the stuff you needed to just survive up at 25,000 feet. This was all back in 1944, a tough time, It's hard to believe, but it was back in 1919 when Charlie Chaplin met Helen Keller. It was 1946, right after the war. Imagine a cycle train, the first one ever after all that. It was heading south from Los Angeles down to San Diego. It looks like Parisians are celebrating. There's a joyous welcome happening on August 25th, 1944, in Paris. It must be a great day, with the Allied troops arriving after the battle for the liberation of Paris. Back when the rules weren't so rigid, there were some pretty wild tales of kids being sent through the mail. You see, parents would actually pay for postage to ship their children, and the postal conductors would make sure they arrived safe and sound. This all happened back in the 1910s, the time period between 1910 and 1919. During World War II, the United States put a nationwide speed limit in place. Drivers across the country were told to stick to 35 miles per hour. This was all to conserve gas and rubber. It's a behind-the-scenes moment with the legendary British actor Charlie Chaplin. He's there with the American actress Myrna Kennedy and a little cat. They seem to be on set, maybe taking a break during the filming of the movie The Circus. That would have been back in 1928, quite a while ago. A bank robber is firing a weapon. He's aiming right at the surveillance camera. This all happened in Cleveland, Ohio, back in 1977. The scene unfolds in London, back in May of 1978. A crowd of protesters has gathered. They're marching after a young Bangladeshi textile worker named Altab Ali was murdered in the city's East End. It was a racially motivated killing, and the community is clearly showing its outrage. William Patrick Farrell, 25 years old, is screaming and lunging at someone. He's doing it from inside a police van. This was back on March 3rd, 1955. Apparently, Farrell had been arrested the month before for the murder of a student named Ann Yarrow. During the Second World War, Finnish soldiers propped up a frozen Soviet fighter plane. They used it as part of their psychological warfare campaign against the invading Soviets. A lesbian couple, all dressed up for a wedding, but with a bit of a twist. They're in semi-drag. This picture was taken way back in Budapest, Hungary in 1920. It was 1961, and the sun was shining. The air smelled like fresh-cut grass and summer freedom. Someone was learning to ride a bicycle, a wobbly dance of balance and determination. It was 1958, and the air was electric. Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward, they were something. It's a crazy scene, this one. Imagine the middle of the highway, and instead of cars whizzing by, there's a picnic. It must have been sometime around 1973 during that whole oil crisis. You've got families just spread out with blankets, having lunch right there on the road. I bet people were sharing food and trying to make the best of a tough situation. What a bizarre memory. It was a crisp October day, the first of the month in 1940, and Albert Einstein was making a big life change. He was becoming a United States citizen. I can only imagine how monumental that felt. It looks like a sweet moment, a kiss in Central Park. It must have been around 1974. A nanny is busy pouring drinks for a group of children. This is happening in a manger, and it's for the children of working mothers. The year is 1919. The King of Hollywood, Clark Gable, looks like he's spending some time with one of the cats that roamed his ranch. It was out in the San Fernando Valley, California, back in the year 1945. Back in 1915, there was a huge eruption of Mount Lassen. You could see it all the way from Red Bluff, California. It's 1944, and there's a Frenchman. He looks to be in a heated discussion. He's gesturing wildly towards two German soldiers. I wonder what they're talking about. It was a special moment. Richard Nixon, the president, was there to greet John McCain. McCain had just returned home after being a prisoner of war in Vietnam. It must have been an incredibly emotional homecoming. It's a remarkable piece of engineering, a metal suit designed to let a diver go down, way down. They said it could handle depths of 1,200 feet. Imagine the pressure. This was all the rage back in 1938. Brand new wheels! It's the early 1900s. It's October of 1931, and things are getting heated in Newark, New Jersey. A crowd is clearly fired up about something, and the message is loud and clear. They want beer. You can tell they're pretty serious about it. Probably not too happy about the whole prohibition thing. Looks like a real demonstration with a strong message from the Unionists. A police officer stops the cars, making sure a mama cat and her little kitten can get across the road without a problem. This was back in 1925, a real act of kindness. It was June of 1942 down in Escambia Farms, Florida. The air probably smelled of sunshine and fresh eggs. A group of men were working together, grading them at the FSA cooperative. Seems the cooperative hired these guys, working by the day, to handle all that grading. A young soldier holds a small piggy bank. This must have been during World War II, maybe in London. It's 1923, and there's a man who's clearly been through a lot. He's suffered his third stroke, and the weariness is evident. They wouldn't let this picture be seen back then in the USSR. It was the original Ferris wheel, you know, the one from the Chicago World's Fair. That was back in 1893 in Illinois. $80,000 people showed up for the heavyweight championship boxing match back in 1921. It was a huge event, pitting Georges Carpentier against Jack Dempsey. The scene is in Spain back in 1957. You've got Salvador Dali and Walt Disney together. A dapper young man, all dressed up, ready to have his picture taken. This must have been sometime in 1905. The year was 1942. Some designers are busy at work, putting together plans for a new Chevrolet fleet line. They're focused on a sporty sedan version, and you can feel the energy in the room as they refine the details. The missus, she was a real piece of work with fake hands. This was sometime around 1905. The air hung heavy with the scent of industry, a lingering ghost of work gone silent. Women and children, their faces etched with hardship, sifted through the slag heaps. They were searching, hoping to find even a small piece of coal, a way to heat their homes. The mines, closed because of the strike, had taken their livelihoods, and desperation was a harsh companion in this time of need. It was a struggle for survival, day after day. Here's a photo of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signing the declaration of war against Japan. This happened back in 1941. In the 1920s, hundreds of young girls and women were employed in American watch factories. They were exposed to a lot of radium, so much so that they actually came home glowing in the dark. New York, back in the 1920s. Seems like a tattoo artist is hard at work, maybe in a dimly lit shop somewhere. Imagine the smell of ink and the hum of the machine. It's 1971, and a powerful group is coming together. You've got Gloria Steinem, Bella Abzug, Shirley Chisholm, and Betty Friedan, all joining forces to create the National Women's Political Caucus. It's the beginning of something really big, you know? The town of Deadwood was absolutely buzzing. It was the year 1888, and the whole place was in a celebratory mood. They'd just finished a long stretch of the railroad, finally connecting them to the outside world. There was definitely a party going on. It was a really cool ride called flying cars. You'd sit in these little cars, and the big drum they were attached to would rotate around. You had a brake you could control right in the car. The whole thing was designed so the cars would go all the way up and over the loop. That must have been something else back in 1950. During the time of Prohibition, folks got pretty creative. They cooked up all sorts of clever tricks and products to outsmart the rules and the ever-watchful law enforcers. It was a real game, you know, trying to get around things. An Army airship, the C-41, is touching down on the mall right next to the Lincoln Memorial. It looks like they're celebrating Lincoln's birthday, back in February of 1930. It looks like Lenin's giving a speech in Moscow back in 1920.